What's up, y'all? I'm just waiting on a good friend of mine's, Tanya Germain, and once we get her here, we'll get started. So, peace, peace. What's up, Shell Toad? How you doing? All right, get Tanya in right now. Hold on. Here we go.
Hi, hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good. As soon as I sent the request, I was like, let me just go grab my AirPods real quick. So, can you hear
No,
me?
that's
I
cool.
just switched over.
No, yeah, I hear you perfectly fine. I was looking for mines, but they're probably in the car, but that's not a big deal. I can hear you perfectly fine.
And
And I just got this new tripod. I just got this new tripod set up, so I have you close to the to me speaking, so it's good.
okay, perfect, perfect. How are you?
All right. I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I've been excited about this all day. I think I think this is a very pertinent topic that needs to be discussed, and I think also within the climate that we're in, I think this is a time that people really need it. So I'm excited for the conversation. How about yourself?
I am as well. I know we had talked about this for I want to say a few months now. I don't know why my phone's backlight keeps going down. But yeah, we've been talking about this for a few weeks and it's here, it's time. I agree with you. This is a very relevant and important topic. And I just want to say thank you first and foremost for just, sharing your platform with me. I know we're going to get into it, but,
Right, right.
I just wanted to, yeah, say thank you for sharing your platform with me because, I just know how important having these types of conversations are within like your space. So inviting me in to, just to continue that conversation, I feel honored. So thank you.
Oh man, no, you're absolutely welcome. And I hate to say this to you, but you're more than likely going to have to do this again because I'm going to do an official podcast production for the audio. So just so you know.
That's
But yeah, I'm
okay.
ready to get. I'm ready to get right into it. I have my questions here. And yeah, let's get started if that's cool with you.
Sure, let's do it.
All right, excellent, excellent, excellent. All right, let me just take a quick look here. Excellent. All right. Yo, 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 what's going on? What's going on? It's the man, Kevin Unglad, and we're back. We're back, ladies and gents, with another episode of the Wise Guys podcast. Now, as you all know, with this impending season, season four, Mark and I have obviously, decided to go our separate ways because we have so many other endeavors on our table. So, as I agreed with Mark, what I would do, in spirit of the podcast, closing out the fourth and final season, is that I would be bringing on a slew of guests to talk to the entire season four to just kind of get a chance to pick their brains in terms of their expertise, what they do, and things of that nature. So, as this fourth and final season is called For the Culture, all right, it's only important that when we talk about the culture, we talk about the culture in an array of aspects, whether it's health, whether it's sports, whether it's education, whether it's mental health or dealing with at risk youth. But today's conversation in general, we are specifically focusing on, on the topic of finance. So now, with this being said, I'm not going to waste any time. Today's lovely guest, man, I had a chance to chop it up with her a few weeks back. We had a tremendous, epic conversation about finance, about building generational wealth. And she's been in my network for about over a year now, about a year and a half. Same for Mark as well. And, we look forward to continuing to grow with her, to continue to, develop and forge new paths to obviously building this new reality for us as people, and especially, within the communities of color, especially the Black community. So with that being said, I don't want to waste any more time. Please welcome today, Wise Community, onto the Wise Guys podcast, the one and only Tanya Germain. Tanya, welcome, 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 welcome.
Let's go. That was a dope introduction. Thank
No,
you.
for sure. I always say it for the best without question. So, with that being said, Tanya, could you please give our Wise Guys podcast audience, and as well as IG Live as people come on, could you please give us a 30-second elevator pitch synopsis about who you are and what you do?
Sure. Well, like you said, my name is Tanya Germain. Born and raised in New York. My family is from Haiti, so I consider myself Haitian if somebody were to ask me my ethnicity. I would say I'm a serial entrepreneur. There isn't one category that fully, defines what it is that I do and how I'm looking to expand. But at the moment, the main focus is investorship, and education around that. So there are, just so many ways that we can be growing our money and just making smarter decisions. And the education on that is really not super vast. Well, there is a lot of education on it, but it's not readily, I guess I could say, readily available. So, part of what I do, part of what I'm excited about is bridging that gap between knowing and not knowing, and putting people in a position to start winning in a way that they wouldn't have imagined before.
That's excellent. That's excellent. And I love the fact that you put it as knowing and not knowing and kind of bridging that gap to put people in predicaments or in places of opportunities that they didn't have before. Because essentially that's what this whole entire conversation is about for today's episode.
Yep.
So if it's cool with you, I kind of just want to like get right into it. I'm excited. I have so many questions for you.
Let's do it.
Yep, yep. And I don't know if you're getting this request too on your screen, but my screen is telling me to like I might be able to flip the camera sideways. I want to see what that does. No, oh, that flips it. You don't want to see that mess. I thought it
Putting
was
your
gonna flip
business
it
on
this way.
blast. No,
Yeah, and I thought it was
I'm
gonna
not
flip
getting
it this
that.
way.
Oh, I
Yeah,
see.
yeah. I guess we don't have that feature yet. Okay,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
that's good.
Okay.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. So I kind of want to get right into it. As I said before, I'm gonna start off with this very first question. Matter of fact, let me put my glasses on so I can actually see and read. Cool. So, Tanya, the first question I have for you is finance the most pressing matter of concern within communities of color? All right. So again, is finance the most pressing matter of concern within communities of color? So this is a two-part question. And the second one is, why is financial literacy crucial to the development of the family dynamic over time? So answer that however you may.
Okay, sure. Those are great, great, great questions, by the way. I was thinking about this, and really what I want to say is that the idea of finance, right? It is a pressing issue. I've heard it be said, right? Money is not everything, but it ranks right up there with oxygen, right? Like money is pretty important. And I read this book called The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Waddles. And, from the very beginning, he just talks about how, a lot of times in our day to day, people, they renounce this idea that we need money, that money can buy certain things. And the way he looks at it is like, no, money, any way you slice it, you're gonna need money, right? If you want to get better mentally, spiritually, physically, all of those things, right? You need to have money in order to kind of bridge that gap. But what I was really thinking about and pondering over is this idea of like not so much the money, right? Because people have found ways to make money. People have gotten really creative. Okay, so I don't think there is a dearth of opportunities to make money. I just think that for me, what changed the game for me was the idea of freedom, because you can make money, right? I can, stay with the Department of Education for the next 20 years. I'll be making money. I'll be making over six figures. But the freedom is really what I think people crave, and they don't know how to name that, right? They just, the way we name it, just because we live in such a consumer kind of bubble, is like, yeah, no, I just want money. I want to be able to take that trip. I want to be able to buy those things. But it's really the freedom to be able to do it that you really crave. But a lot of people just don't know how to name that, or if they can name it, they allow it to get to daunt them. The idea of like, oh my God, I could actually step out and start my own. That could be very daunting. So people don't even go the freedom route. They'll just, chalk it up to money. Yes, I need more money, or I don't have enough money. Um, to answer the second question about financial literacy, so here's how I feel about financial literacy, right? Literacy in any sense is important. You should know things about things. But it's not enough to just know. This is something that I've, come to learn in the last almost 2 years, right? If it was enough to just have information, to just have literacy, right? The smartest person in the world would be a librarian, right? Because a librarian is surrounded by information, right? Anything that he or she will need, just go to aisle three and pick up a book about it, right? Or go into the computer and research it. So it's not enough to just have the information to be literate, right? It's what are you going to do with that information? You could go to all the seminars in the world, you could spend all your money on all the conferences, but if you're not going to actually walk away and apply that information that you've learned, then it's futile, if for lack of a better term.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think you make a ton of great points, and I know the way I had this planned out, because I know we got a chance to talk about this beforehand. I kind of want to reverse order some of the questions a bit, only because I feel as if they're coalescing with a form or a certain narrative that I kind of want this podcast topic or direction to kind of go in.
Sure.
So yeah, so I want to talk to you about school, if that's okay.
Yeah, let's
Um,
do it. Let's talk about
yeah,
school.
yeah, for sure, for sure. And so, I mean, no surprise here. We're both educators, obviously. Both practical educators when it comes to schooling, K through 12, or at the collegiate level, or financially, right?
Hmm.
So I wanted to talk about school, and I kind of wanted to talk about the direction, many young people often go in when it comes to thinking about college and stuff like that. Because personally, for my sake, I ended up going to a 4-year D2 school and now it's Post, but at the time it was CW Post, Long Island University in Long Island.
Hmm.
And when I went there, I didn't understand like my loans. I didn't understand what I was getting in my financial package. And my mom
Hmm.
was just so excited that I was, going to like a university or the appeal or the branding of a university that she quickly signed me up and all of that. But I think it wasn't until we got our first month's bill of what it was I was paying for my tuition that semester. And she was like, oh no, you got to get out of here. Like
Hmm.
this is ridiculous. And from there, I ended up actually transitioning towards a community college and having to work my way back up. But that was something for me that was truly a blessing in disguise because I didn't truly understand the value of money. So the reason why I'm saying this to you is because I don't think, or I don't know, maybe I shouldn't say that because I'm not really in the space. I don't feel as if financial literacy, excuse me, and as well as being financially literate and understanding how money works is taught at the middle or even high school levels for students who are preparing to go to college and being able to understand or navigate the college sphere of obtaining credit cards and things like that. Because I remember my freshman year, I remember the credit card companies just being just ravens, just like stalked out in front of the school, having students sign up for credit cards, whatever, whatnot. And I know like it didn't really help them out. So, what are your thoughts on that in terms of college, navigating college financially, and how not being financially literate can impact the understanding and as well as the navigation of parents and as well as their child when they are enrolling?
Yeah. Sheesh, very loaded question, but another really good question as well. I think it all boils down to paradigms and systems, right? What we know and what we're used to. But what we know is kind of the result of what was set in place 500, 600, 700 years ago, right? And maybe at that time it worked and it made sense for what was happening. But nobody thinks sometimes to step out of the paradigm, step out and break out of the system and create something that works for right now, right? And so I completely empathize with that story. I went to a private school for my first year, over $55,000 a year, got right out and, ended up going to SUNY as well, right? Going to a state school. And it's so crazy how at the age of 17 or 18, you're making decisions that are that important, financial decisions that are that important. And really the only thing that kind of can help you make that decision is what your guidance counselor might have told you, or what, the person in your family that graduated first might have told you, or whatever the case may be. And so I definitely do not knock school. I always say that, but I do have a new perspective of school when I think about it. Because again, it's a paradigm. I think it's something that for the time, when it was created, and this whole idea of like the institution, the higher education institution, it probably made sense for that time. But now we live in such a digital era. We live in such a space where like information is so readily available that I don't believe that the model of, sitting inside of a room, listening to someone lecture for 2 hours and then regurgitating whatever it is that they just shared, I don't believe that that works anymore. And so I do think that, middle school, high school, at those levels, financial literacy could be taught, right? But you could learn that. Like I could show, a sixth grader a couple of things about bank accounts and credit cards and interest and all of those things. It won't take so long to give them the basics, at least the basics, right? But what's really, really missing is this idea of pushing forth critical thinking. Like I've worked in education for probably like five plus years now, and what I've in different capacities, not just as an educator, but what I've seen is that a lot of it is just teaching to a test, or teaching to get certain credentials on paper, but the critical thinking is lacking. And I think that's why what's more dangerous, because you could learn about APR and financing and all those other things. You can learn about taxes and entrepreneurship and investorship. I learned about it late, but I learned about it. But the idea of knowing how to critically think, how to become a problem solver, how to be an innovator, how to have ingenuity, those are things that are not taught in the classroom. Because again, from the time you're in first grade, what are you doing? Listening to the teacher. 2 plus 2 is what? Class 4. And then when it's test time, all you're doing is regurgitating what the teacher said. So where does the critical thinking come in? And that's why when it comes time, right, in our adulthood to innovate, to step out, to explore this idea of freedom, we get scared and it seems daunting. And it's just like, you know what? The idea of school is a system. So I'm just going to continue into a system such as corporate America, such as, working for a nonprofit, such as working in the medical field because that's what my mom did. That's what my aunt did. I'm just going to continue the system going because that's all I know. So this idea of breaking out of it, it's because their critical thinking was never really taught to us from an early age. So that's why, if you look at the four-way cash flow that Robert Kiyosaki developed, right? I don't even know if he developed it. It just is what it is. He put it into a nice picture. 95% of the world is doing the system thing, right? They're exchanging time for money. Only 5% will say, like, you know what? I want to do something different because I desire freedom. And that's because, they found a way to break out of that mold, out of that paradigm, and break out of the system and choose freedom. So I hope that made sense.
Makes a ton of sense. No, thank you so much. And before we move on and transition, I just wanted to read some comments. One from my brother, the one and only Mark Pruden. I totally agree. The internet has made information so easy to obtain that it has made college irrelevant. Thank you, bro. We appreciate you. And one from Melanoid Breast Milk says, homeschooling has always been our bread and butter, and e-learning works well, that model, in terms of today's environment.
You know what's so crazy? I cannot see the comments at all.
No, I'm so sorry. It's probably because it's showing up on my screen. I don't know.
Yeah, everything is frozen for me. I don't know who's in here, but shout out to Mark.
Really?
Shout out to Melanoid Breast Milk. Hi, everyone. But it's okay. Keep doing your thing.
No, yeah, for sure. And I talk about Melanoid Breast Milk. I talk about critical thinking so much. And I think that's something me and you, we've had conversations about, like how important critical thinking is. And that critical thinking is something that people don't even realize that they don't do. And then on top of that, right, when you think about financial literacy, or you think about anything, right, in terms of critical thinking, such as, let's say I pose you a question, how many times have you been in conversations with people about, okay, so like, so what are your finances right now? Well, I've been through a situation where it's like, no, so what are your finances right now? People don't even answer the question directly. Like that just goes like to show that the ability to critically think and assess in order to get from one place to another is
Mm-hmm.
something that's not sorted.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that there's something just very, very interesting. So melanoid breast milk, shout out to you for that because I think that's something you're onto something with that for sure. Um,
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And so I want to move towards investing a little bit because obviously I've had these conversations with you and as well as Mark. And every time I talk to you all, I get excited because obviously, as we shared prior, I just got out of credit card debt a couple of months ago, which has started this,
Woo!
yeah, I know, right? Which has started this,
That's
like,
big.
this raging desire within me to not only invest, but to continue investing and to continue to diversify and play with some things. So I wanted to ask you, Tanya, when it comes to investing, why is it imperative that we invest? And what are some investment programs worth looking into for people that are not experienced and are beginners?
Perfect. Perfect. This is my topic, and it's so funny that I could even say that because this was not my topic, a couple of years ago. And in fact, I would cringe and really just run away from conversations like this because the word invest, it seems so loaded, it seems so complex, and we invest every single day, right? Time is an investment, and it's actually one of the biggest investments that we make on a daily basis. And the idea of investing is just simple, right? You put in something and you're meant to get more out of it, right? Especially when we're talking about finances. So it's imperative to invest because if you're not investing, then all you're doing is having a linear relationship with money, right? If you ask people, right, ask 100 people, what is the purpose of their bank account? It's just for money to flow in and flow out, right? The direct deposit comes in, perfect. And then 2, 3 days later, you delegate, you give to, the rent company, you give to Con Edison, you give to Capital One, you give to, Sally Mae, and then you're back at square one. So if you're not investing, all you're doing is creating a funnel for money to come in and money to come out. And the name of the game is not even how much you make, but it's how much you keep. So obviously, the more you make, the more you're going to be able to keep. If you're not in a position to, keep on expanding your salary, right, then you have to find a way to expand what it is that you earn, if that makes sense. For some people, they can get the next job and go up the ladder, and that's great. But for some people, that's not always possible. For some people, their education level might keep them at a certain level in their job, and now they can't hope to make more than $50,000 a year or $40,000 a year. And that's cool. But what can I do with that money in order to grow it and keep it, right? And it's just smart. Think about it, right? A lot of times we have jobs that they offer us a pension plan or a retirement plan or whatever the case may be. And I don't knock those either because it's something, right? It's better than just, doing your paycheck thing and then you're retired and now you have nothing. But it's smoke and mirrors when you think about it because I'll never forget. This really stuck with me. I have a young lady that I'm working with now, and she got excited when I was telling her about investing, and we work together now. And she told me that she what kind of like was the last straw for her was seeing her stepfather build up 20 years worth of pension and then spent it in 3 years. So investorship is not just ideal. I'm putting in money and I'm getting something back. It's how can I sustain? How can I do this in a way that is going to be going to happen over and over again? And that's why when you come into fast money or you come into money by happenstance or by coincidence, you'll never sustain. I see people get excited because they made a quick 300 $400 in the stock market, and that's great. But how have you come up with a way to make that your supplemental income? Is there a way for you to continue to have results like that? Or are you just okay coming into some quick money and then getting out? Like, where's the commitment? How are you going to teach yourself, or maybe not even teach yourself, but learn how to make that a form of income consistently? And so I don't even remember what the original question was, but yeah. Oh, you said what are some programs? So this is the fun part, right? Because I saw something yesterday that kind of really um, synthesizes my thoughts, and I think it'll make sense for everybody. So I do investment education. I'm partnered with an education platform. Now, a lot of people, not a lot of people, some people see the value. Some people are just like, why would I pay for something that I could learn on YouTube for free? Now, is it a lie that you can learn this on YouTube for free? Absolutely not, right? You probably can. But what I saw yesterday was um called, sorry. But she said the quote said, people pay for the convenience of the information being all put together for them. If you try to learn an extensive skill set on YouTube, you're gonna find yourself going down a rabbit hole, right? And the other thing too is that anybody and everybody can be on YouTube. There's no like qualifications, there's no accreditation that you need. I can make a video today. It could be my first day learning about Bitcoin, and I could decide tonight to put a video up on YouTube about Bitcoin. Does that make me a credible, person to be sharing the information? And so, what you pay for is the information being not only tested and true, somebody already had the experience. A lot of the educators on the platform I'm partnered with, they've been doing this for 6, 7, 10, 15 years, right? And so they've made the mistakes. They've, gone through the mindset shift, and now they put the information in front of you in a simplified way. And that's what you're paying for. That's what you're investing in, is the convenience of having it all there and having it in a credible way, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, no, most for sure. And man, just what I truly appreciate about these conversations is that I think it puts a lot of things into perspective, right? And you know, I mean, that's my brother, so every time I say this, it's because like I always get a form of value and a gem that I could always hold on to. Mark always says this too when we talk, like for example, like when he talks about first generation millionaires, and he says usually
Mm,
what happens is that somewhere down the line, whether it's the second or third generation, someone usually blows the money, whether it be like, a life insurance policy or something that's inherited and passed down because they just don't understand how to navigate, like, with the money. Like they don't understand like how to take the money and, once you extrapolate it from whatever sources that you have, right? Like such as like a life insurance policy or as a fund that's passed down and like, re-put it out there, and send it back out there to make it work for you and make it generate, more additional income and whatnot. And it's interesting because I feel as if like that. I think that's something that we struggle with a lot as people because I think we're so focused on the now and like having that consumerist mindset that we don't actually make ourselves the producer, if that makes sense.
mhm,
We don't, we
mhm.
don't produce as much as we consume, which tends to be an issue for us as people. And I'm gonna pose this question to you real quick. I'm wondering what your thought is in regards to that. I feel as if people feel as if people not feel, but people have kind of been trained or swayed towards the line of being consumers. And going back to your point prior, they can't produce or they don't know how to produce because there's a lack of patience there, right? There's a lack of patience
Mm,
that's there that doesn't allow them to sit through it and try to push, persist, and learn and educate themselves in order to
mhm,
get these monetary gains, right? So
mhm,
someone such as yourself or Mark or other people within the financial space, I know personally that, how do I say this? I know personally from my perspective, I'm not as inclined and as well read or well versed in a lot of these things, right? But I know that if I ever sit down and have a conversation with you or him, I know that I can be astute as a student and learn and take the time to take notes and say, okay, cool. Well, now that I know this, let me go back to you and think and tell you, what about this? What do you think about that? And then over time, it'll get to a point where hopefully where I'm not going to you as much, but then I'm taking those same, those same ideologies and before you know it, it becomes rote, right? It becomes second nature, and now I'm passing it down to my kids or people of
mhm.
the sort. I think that's something that Melanoid Breast Milk said too that we have to teach financial investing to our children. She also said too that and that consumerism is a taste that has been given to us, especially as it relates to assimilation. Wow, I think those are all great points. So, what are your thoughts
Mm-hmm.
on that in terms of
Mm-hmm.
assimilating, or in regards to the thoughts of being patient and having the wherewithal to kind of sit it out and also educate yourself at the same time? I think this is something that we struggle with as a community.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I saw something that said, success is complex, right? Like if the first question you ask is how hard is it, like you've already lost. And I think a lot of the reason why, to your point, right, and it kind of goes to my point again, like if all the information was out there on YouTube or whatever, just readily available for free, why isn't everybody a 6 or 7 figure investor, right? If it's free to learn it, why aren't you learning it, right? Because it is true, right? It is a process. It does take patience. And again, back to just this idea of paradigms, we will spend 4 years in a higher education space to receive a piece of paper that tells us, you now have access to these spaces, right? We'll do that for 4 years. We'll write paper after paper and do, practical after practical or whatever it is that you were required to do to get your bachelor's, right? Because we know now a bachelor's is not even getting us into the same spaces that it used to. So maybe 4 years, maybe 6 years, maybe, beyond that. So we'll do that, or we'll do on the flip side, we'll work 40, 50 hours a week for an employer, all those things, right? And we'll wait 2 weeks to get the money that, I guess we feel we deserve because that's what we're, sticking to. But when it comes to learning a skill set, learning something that can actually profoundly change your finances, put you in a 6, 7, 8 figure category, for some backwards reason, we want that to happen much quicker than anything else. You're not going to go to school for 6 years and be a 7 figure earner coming out of grad school. You're just not. Please find me the job. You're not going to go to school for 10 years and become I just don't know. Even a anesthesiologist or whoever, they don't even make $1 million a year, right? They might make good money. Maybe they make half a million, but they went to school for 12, 13, I don't know, 16 years to even be at that level. You're not going to work at a job 40 hours a week, 20 years and become a 7 figure earner. So if I'm putting you in a position to possibly become a 6, 7 figure earner just from investments alone, why in your right mind would you think that it will only take a month or 30 minutes a day? Like, you know what I'm saying? And I think that kind of is the bittersweet part about what it is that I do, because we make it simple, not easy. We do make it simple for people to invest in a way that it otherwise wouldn't have been as simple. And I think sometimes the simplification can be confused with easy or quick or not requiring something, because I'm learning so much that mindset is really everything. Do you really believe? Because there's an opportunity. There are many opportunities, right, on the platform that I'm with to kind of just log in, plug in, and get the answers from someone else that knows what they're doing, can jump in with you and say, hey, take this trade. Hey, take that trade. And people make money doing that. And that's great. And that, I think that's what gives our platform some value. But think about it, right? Like, are you going to get rich from just taking someone else's idea all day? I just don't believe God rewards that, right? God doesn't reward, like, I wouldn't call that sloth because, you're still plugging in, you're still doing something. But, hard work is rewarded, productivity is rewarded. It says so in the Bible. And so if your mindset is like, how am I going to find a quick come up? How am I going to, do a quick, catch a quick lick or flip this real quick, flip that real quick? All that language is just indicative of like, you're trying to find the quickest route to success, and that's actually the slowest way to success is trying to find shortcuts. So either way you cut it, anybody that you look at that has amassed, huge success, however you want to define success, they worked for it in some way, shape, or form. And it's so funny that it just always looks like it happened overnight. And that's where people discredit the hard work. That's where people discredit the patience. That's where people don't see that, it took Jeff Bezos over 20 years to get to where he's at now. They just see, oh, he's worth 193 billion, and they're like, dang, I should have came up with the idea of selling books. But like, it was so much deeper than that. He didn't just, some of us weren't even alive when the first, Amazon was what it was. So we're looking at, the people that have success now and just thinking that it happened in 20 seconds. And that's the danger. My phone don't be
No,
ringing
you're
no
good.
other time, but I jump on the line.
Don't worry about it. You're good. You're good. Yeah, keep going. Keep going.
Sorry about that. Am I good? You hear me?
Yeah, you're good. You're good. Yeah, keep
Okay.
going. Keep going.
So the danger with social media or highlight reels is that all you see is that, right? Even like something like, I'm gonna get off topic for 1 second, but something like a cooking video. Why do we get so why is that so gratifying for us to watch cooking videos all day?
We lost Tanya for a bit, guys. I think she might have tried disconnecting from a call, and she ended up probably pressing X. But hold on, I think she's coming back right now. Uh, we thank you for your patience, everyone. Hold on. And hold on, guys. 1 second. She's coming back in right now. And you're back. Okay,
All
cool,
right,
cool.
good. The good news is I can see people's comments now and
Oh,
other
cool,
things
cool,
like
cool.
that.
Yeah, yeah,
Sorry. You know
yeah,
what it
yeah.
is? The devil knew I was about to get in my bag and
That's a
he was trying to
fact.
hate. But something like watching a cooking video in 30 seconds, we
Yes.
get to see from start to finish what happened. And that's not reality. It took that person like 2 hours or even like a makeup reel, 30 seconds, and you get to see the full scope of how somebody's face looks. And it's like, no, it took them a while. So a lot of times it can be really, really dangerous to get on these apps and really allow what we see in front of our eyes to like paint the complete picture for us. And it deters us from celebrating people because you're like, oh, I mean,
Again. Yeah, you're here. Okay, you're good.
okay. I don't know
Yeah.
where the last thing I said, but
No, it's cool. It's cool. I think. Well, hold on. Melanoid breast milk says, "Love that. Simple, not easy." Yeah, I think you were kind of making this correlation in regards to cooking in terms of like how simple it may all look because you're watching like a quick IGTV 5 minute video or like a 45-second reel, and you're really bypassing the work that is done prior to, right? Like you didn't get a chance to see what ingredients were put out first. You didn't get a chance to
mhm,
see seasoning that was applied to
mhm,
whatever meats or whatever it was that you were, applying the seasoning to. How long you let it sit there and just kind of just like rest and whatnot. But I think that's I think that was a genius analogy, honestly, because um, I think that's something we sometimes as people we may struggle with, if that makes sense. Like I know for me personally, like patience is just like the number one thing. I know if I don't have patience, things don't often turn out the way I want them to, right? It's almost as if like God always pushes me back and says like, no, like there's a process to this,
mhm.
so whether that's finance, whether that's education, whether that's my own aspirations. Like if I don't go through the process, I won't be able to reap the rewards or the benefits that I so seek, right? And
Exactly.
it's really interesting because it's funny you mentioned Jeff Bezos because Jeff Bezos is one of my inspirations. And also, I was actually thinking about it today, because I know we've had this conversation. I've been building my media company, Flower Concrete, for like the last like 7, 8 years, and I'm nowhere near where I thought I was going to be when it came to building it. And I was just like, Kevin, you're only 30 years old. Like you're nowhere near 35. You're not 40 yet. You're not 45, 50. Like if you would have told yourself 10 years ago
Hmm.
where you'd be now with your company, would you be happy about it? And I was just
Hmm.
like, no, I wouldn't. And then now looking at it now, it's just like, and I'm, coming across, like guys like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and I'm getting more of their story now in the context of it and seeing how much they're accruing and building wealth at the ages of 52, 48, 55. It's like you haven't even hit your peak or your prime yet, Kev. So
Right.
like, there's so much more for you to seek and obtain and to achieve within your lifetime. It's concerning your company, growing
Right.
it within, obviously the media space and as well as the financial space. So no, have patience because you don't know where you'll be 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 years from now, God willing. So I
Right.
think that's something we can take back and we can make it applicable to this conversation because again, I think patience is something that we sorely lack within communities of color, and it often unhinges us from forging or staying along that path, and then we end up getting either dissuaded or just disinterested in what we're doing in the
Mm-hmm.
community. So I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. I just think that's something very interesting, and I want to thank you for actually bringing up that point because I think that's something that isn't harped upon, and I think a lot of that is because of the distractions we had, our
Mm-hmm.
jobs. Coming home and just chilling and watching Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
Checking the latest movie or the latest
Mm-hmm.
craze on social media. So I think a lot of these things are put in place to the point where it kind of distracts us from our goals, or it kind of keeps us off that path, or we veer off that path. In terms of being financially disciplined and aspirationally disciplined. And I don't know. I just think
Absolutely.
that's a fascinating point you bring up because again, I know so many people who are intelligent and have lofty dreams, and not only lofty dreams, but are geniuses. Like people in my family, even that I'm like, man, like this guy, he was supposed to be something. Like I just saw so much
Mm-hmm.
in him when I was a kid. But then, like you succumb to school, or you succumb to the 9 to 5, and you didn't really take time to push yourself and stay on course, or be patient, even, like I mean, I know you see it now, and I'm glad because we're kind of heading in this direction right now. You see it happening now with, if not like personal investments or things of that nature, right? You see it happening in crypto, obviously, right? And you see like, people, it's become like this big craze for people who think, oh man, I'm gonna get rich so quick and all that stuff, right? Because I feel as if we tend to have that that get rich quick scheme, or that let me try to get in and hold this hand and lay it down and I'm gonna win. This isn't gambling, bro. That's not how it works. I don't know, but like, so if you could even kind of speak to that now, within that whole space of just like people going or hopping on trends and thinking that, I can really, within this allotted time frame, come out with a big splash and then go back in there and then try to gamble again. Because I think gambling sometimes too can be a bit of a problematic problem or a hindrance.
Yeah. To that point, it just all goes back to mindset. If you So you made a great point, right? A lot of people give up before they can even see the fruits of their labor. And that's because a lot of times they're waiting for the outcome and they are not enjoying the process, right? Or maybe they're just not even passionate about the process. Imagine if we had farmers that weren't passionate about the process. Like, none of us would be able to eat because they would be planting seeds and expecting, harvest the next day, and that would just mess up their entire schedule. They just would be pulling things out of the ground prematurely and there would be nothing, right? And so if we kept that same energy when it came to the fruits of our labor, or seeing the harvest being reaped from the seeds that we planted, then it would make sense. Because the problem is we're not passionate enough about whatever it is that we're doing, so we're focused on the result, the result, the result. And meanwhile, the process is the funnest part, because the process is where you're learning, it's where you're growing, it's where you're tailoring, it's where you're impacting other people, it's where you're, shedding old skin, it's where you're shifting your mindset. And then the result is just, it should just be the cherry on top. Like, wow, look at all the things I did. Look at how I, broke out of the mold. Look at how I sacrificed. Look at how I pushed myself after work, after the 9 to 5, I did a 5 to 9, and then I did this and that. Now, yes, reward is whatever it was that you wanted in the first place, that freedom, that whatever, the finances, whatever it is that you wanted. So too many people are just ready to see the results, but not really understand that there's a process. And again, I don't believe that you're going to be rewarded, at least not in a substantial, sustainable way, if you're just hopping on something and hopping out. If you go to the casino, and I'm not judging at all, because I know people have their vices. But when even if I go into like the corner store and I see people buying a lottery ticket and things like that, you know, there's just a spirit behind this of like, I'm just wishing for something. I'm just hoping for something. You know how many people are just like, here's my cash app, or, when's my stimmy coming, blah, 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 blah. It's just like, this idea that somebody else is meant to help me with my problems. People come at Jeff Bezos all the time saying like, oh, he could, you know, fix world hunger if he wanted to and still have enough. And it's just like, that's just not how law works. There are laws in the universe, and if you don't understand how laws work, then of course you can have that mindset. There's no way that you're gonna buy a lottery ticket, win, $50,000, and the same mindset that brought you to even buy that lottery ticket is the same mindset that's going to allow you to wither all those everything that you came into away, right? And so again, I don't remember the original question, but yeah, it's just mindset. It's just all mindset. Crypto is great because yes, you can jump in, and Mark and I actually were having a conversation about this too on live a couple of weeks ago, but you can jump in, you can make some money. Same thing with stocks. You can jump in, you can make some money. But if you don't actually know what it is that you're buying into, if you don't understand the fundamentals of the market, if you don't understand, technical analysis, things of that nature, if you don't understand how certain trends in history repeat themselves, all those kinds of things, then you can't sustain that. You could be like, oh, look, crypto went up and I made $500 today. But from day to day, that's not going to be your experience. In the same way you lost or you made the 500, you're going to lose it because you just don't have the information behind it, the education and the mindset of like win some, lose some, right? People only want to ride the wave when it's going up, but it's just like, if you really understood the market, you know that what goes up must come down. So are you going to be okay when it comes down? Do you understand that there are proper times to buy and proper times to sell, or are you just ready to hold forever and hope that it goes back up to where it once was? Like just all these nuances that people miss when they're not fully passionate about what it is that they're doing.
No, I agree. I agree so much with you thoroughly, and I think you made great points with that. And I think that connects back to what you were saying earlier about the process, right? Like if you don't love the process, you're not going to be successful, because with the process you have to love the process, right? And with that comes discipline. With the process comes hard work. With the process comes the ability to critically assess, and as well as uh, trial and error, right? Work out the kinks. And if you don't love that, like I know me personally, like I'm a creator, I'm a creative, right? And
Hmm.
whether like I'm writing a book or I'm working on my music, if I'm in Microsoft Word and like the pagination or the format of the book isn't right, and I want it to be a 5 by 5 by 8.5, and I can't find it, then I'm gonna Google and just try to like research and try to figure out how can I solve that, right? And I don't get vexed or annoyed or frustrated when that happens. I keep pushing, because I'm like, no, like there has to be a logical explanation and a reason for it. So I have to be able to understand it. I have to be able to process that, and I have to be able to unpack that in order to get me to the next point. But a lot of people usually stop there once a challenge presents themselves, because they themselves probably have never been challenged, right? And that's not a bad thing, but I think that's something that we gotta grow out of, and we gotta
Hmm.
be able to push through like that level of uncomfortability, because you're going to
Hmm.
be challenged every day. And a YouTuber says this often: the world does not owe you love or understanding. So like no one's going to
Hmm.
understand your problems. No one's going to no one's like people, especially people who don't know you, who have no understanding or knowing of who you are. They're not going to say, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry for you." So you got to kind of like figure these things out for yourself, right? And if you don't have that like mentality or that mindset, you may always find yourself in a predicament or a situation in which you're not flourishing. And I also,
Hmm.
before I move on to the next question, I also saw something today on Instagram, and I actually posted on my story in which I think it was Mark Lamont Hill, a brilliant mind, one of my favorite scholars actually,
Mm-hmm.
posted a list of 9 things that people say when they're hating on you. And I thought it was
Oh,
so
I did
interesting
see
because,
that. Mm-hmm.
yeah, and I thought it was so interesting because sometimes it's not even hate. It goes back to like what you were talking about in terms of like there's laws and you have to
Mm-hmm.
know, you have to process and you have to understand those laws. And one of those hating comments that that was on that list was wish it was me, or like, don't forget about me when you become famous. It's like, yo, like you're saying wish it was me, but why are you wishing? You should be working towards
Mm-hmm.
whatever goals it is that you
Mm-hmm.
have. So
Mm-hmm.
like whatever you say or you put out
Mm-hmm.
there, the universe is going to hear you and you are going to be
Mm-hmm.
rewarded for your complacency or for the attitude and the go-getter active mindset that you have. But
Mm.
it's something that we need to get in the better mindset of, especially within this financial space. And
Mm-hmm.
so before we close out, I wanted to ask you this question here. How can we bridge the gap between a lack of understanding financial literacy between youth, or so when I say youth, I mean kids within the age range of, let's say, 12 to like 18, 21, and parents before who might have been misinformed and don't really know what direction to kind of navigate our kids or the next generation in. Do you have any ideas pertaining to that, or what can be done on both sides in terms of bridging that gap?
Yeah. So I think that before anything, we have to check ourselves, right? As if I can put you in the category of someone that also wants to be on this mission of, bridging the gap as well. Like, I know that's part of what I want to do. So I've had to check myself over and over and over again. And here's why I'll say that. Because one, I had to check myself. What am I doing to walk the walk and talk the talk, right? It's so easy to tell someone what they should be doing with their finances, and then your own finances are jacked up, right? Because that's just what it is on social media. That's what we do before we actually go through. There's 4 types of knowledge, right? And it requires you to actually learn it, do the activity, model it, and then teach it. But we go straight from learning. Sorry. I should be good for
No,
the
you're good.
for good now. Okay. So yeah, so we go straight from learning to teaching and we skip everything in between. We don't want to do the activity. We don't want to model it. So that's one. And the second thing I had to check myself on is just managing my disappointments, disciplining my disappointment because again, there is law. And as much as I want to believe that, we're going to make a shift for the better, it's not going to be super significant. That's just not how it works because there's always going to be people that sorry, there's always going to be people that fall into a certain mindset. When you think about what we're proposing, what we're proposing is to challenge the paradigm that has been implemented again for centuries. So if I'm telling someone like, hey, college isn't actually all it's cracked up to be, it's going to take a while to actually make that make sense to them because that's all they've ever learned. And for me to bring them a new idea, that's weird.
Mm, that's good.
I don't know what is
No,
going on,
you're
but
good. You're good. You're
okay,
good.
okay,
You were
cool, cool, cool.
saying you were saying for you to present a new idea. That's weird. That's excellent. That is
It's
excellent.
just like people are gonna look at you like, so you mean to tell me that what I've known to be true and what my great grandparents knew to be true, you're challenging that? It's my phone. My phone just keeps on like blacking out. I'm sorry, but so yeah, it's paradigms. So what I've had to do is come to the table with my disappointment already being disciplined. Like, you know what? There are gonna be some people I talk to and they hear it. And all I can do is educate. I can't force them, I can't make them. I can just drop little tidbits of what I know in the same way that my mentor and the person that taught me everything I know today, in the same way that he did it for me. And that's all I can do. And walk away, hope that that seed got planted, expose them to what it is that I know, and it's up to them. But at the end of the day, there's something called I'm trying to do the PFT, right? There's PFT, there's people for that. So I want everybody to be a seven-figure income earner. I want everybody to have investments out the wazoo. I want everybody to, hopefully leave a job that they hate and do something that's more freeing. But there has to be people still doing the things that we need them to do. Like, no shade. There has to be someone there to bag the groceries. There has to be someone there in the Mickey Mouse costume at Disney World. There has to be someone there, cleaning up the train station. And that's just, again, that's just law. So I want to educate, I want to bridge the gap, but I know that at the end of the day, only 5% are going to come with me on that journey of all the people that I ever talked to. And I'm okay with that. But that doesn't mean I'm going to silence myself. And that doesn't mean that they can't still catch the nuggets, whether or not they decide to implement it. That's up to them. But I'm not going to not speak on it, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, 100%, 100%. So check this out, Tanya, and as well as Wise Community. I really would like to wrap this conversation up comfortably, but Instagram is telling me now there's only 4 minutes left. I think we'll go over 10 or 15, but I would rather have that extra time and not feel as if we have to be rushed.
Yeah.
So we're going to end this live right now, and on the audio format side, we're going to take a quick break, all right? And then we're going to come back in the next 2 minutes to close out the chat in a final segment, if that's okay. Is that cool with you?
Yep, that sounds good.
All right, cool. So for those of you who are on this chat, come back because I'm going to set up another one in the next minute or half or so, 90 seconds. And for the audio format of the Wise Guys podcast, we'll be back. All right.